Annie, let me ask you a question. Throughout the journey, as we started the church, what was the number one or the hardest or the biggest challenge that you faced?
The number one challenge was never the money.
Okay.
It was the attitude. The attitude of myself, how I perceive my circumstances and my capability to serve, and also the attitude that was given to me by these young people. So it was a mutual learning process.
Okay.
I felt like the attitude was the hardest hurdle to overcome, but that's when we humble ourselves and come to the Lord and ask for help. And say, God, I've got a problem. I'm not feeling the best, and I need to go and serve these young people who are giving me attitude because they're teens. What do you expect? So I think with anything that we do, we have to examine our heart and really invite God into our heart and do the miraculous things and change our heart. So Jack, you asked me the question about what was my biggest challenge when Impact first started. Now is your turn.
All right.
What was your biggest challenge?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. Personally, for somebody like me who was disappointed with church, who left the church, who was kicked out by a church, I never thought about going back to a church. Or even if I did, I would just go and attend the services. But I never thought about starting a church. I think it by itself, it's a miracle. God really used somebody who was disappointed, who was rejected, to start a church. So when we first started the church, this first thing that came to my mind was, how do we stay fresh? How do we not put God in a box? How do we not just do the religious rituals, but instead, how do we do relationship? I believe that is one challenge that I constantly have to remind myself, that if we do something so often and it comes to a point where we think this is how we do church, and I think at that time, I believe that God is no longer there. So that is something that I always keep reminding myself. And that would be a challenge as well, because when we get used to God's presence, that's when we put God in a box. And how do we stay fresh? And the church that we're doing, the people that we're serving, how do we remind them and encourage them to stay fresh? And that is the challenge for me.
Something that could help with that challenge might be how God would help us go back to that first love. Just like in any relationship, you want to keep it fresh.
Yep.
How do we keep it fresh? When things get stale, how do we rekindle the love again? And that goes with our marriage, with our relationship with our kids, our family, right? Even our desire to do more in our career also comes from having a renewed mind, a renewed love.
That's a better way to put it. Thank you.